Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Oklahoma Archery Podcast. I'm Neil Cooley, and today we've got Kent Chesser and Scott Shields with us. Wanted to bring these two guys on. We just inducted both of them to the ASA Western Region Hall of Fame down in Paris this past weekend. So wanted to get these guys on just because I cried and blubbered through both of their induction speeches, and we wanted to give them a chance to talk a little archery with us. So how are you guys doing, man?
Doing great.
We're getting along pretty good this morning. Kind of early.
It's a morning episode of the Oklahoma Archery Podcast. We are hoping that Dave will jump in at some point. I think he's unloading a UPS truck right now, and we're going to talk a little 3D anyways. And Dave doesn't do much 3D, so I figured we'll just kind of go on. And I wanted to give these guys a chance to tell us about how they got started in archery and their background in the sport and how they ended up chasing 12 rings all across the great state of Oklahoma every weekend.
Go ahead, Kent.
All right. Well, I started out, I bought my first bow in 1981 and just did it to bow hunt. A few deer around, but not many, but chased them and really enjoyed it. Didn't go to my first 3D tournament till about 1992. Had a pretty sorry bow at the time, but started shooting a few local tournaments. Of course, back then there was a lot of local tournaments down in the area where I was at, so we kind of enjoyed that. And then it wasn't really until 2004 I shot my first big ASA tournament. Went to the Coshado Casino down in Kinder, Louisiana, and shot my first big ASA shoot back in the day. Of course, like I said, we had a lot of local shoots around, Hennessy, Enid, Woodward, Ponca City, Tyrone, Chandler, so got to go to a lot of those back in the day before I started shooting. The only thing I guess unique about me is I really didn't start the target archery, like I said, till about 1992, and I was in my 30s by then. So I didn't start out as a young buck. I was a little older when I finally started shooting at the phone. But that was kind of what got me started into archery. Had a few people that really influenced me early. The guy that introduced me to archery was a guy named John Henley. Then when I moved to Enid, Jerry Hillman, good friend of mine, got me kind of started on the tournament side, and of course met up with a guy named Rick Allison, who's passed now, but did a great job of introducing me into target archery and indoor and field and things like that. And then had a great influence here in the Enid area. We had a lot of people that were shooting back then. Ron Smart, Carl Recknagel, Vaughn Rader, who's no longer with us as well. Richard Bradford. I mean, people that have been around a long time and knew a lot about archery. And so, I was able to pick up on a lot of things from them and kind of learn a lot of things. And, luckily I've had a enjoyable time shooting archery. I ended up being sponsored for a short period of time. I was on promotional staff for Martin, on promotional staff for Browning and PSE and Pearson. Got a local bow shop that, of course, I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma and down around Craig, Oklahoma, and had dealt with Davenport's Archery and Jeff and the guys down there for years and years. And so just have had a lot of great influences and a lot of people that really kind of helped me out and got me started and just go from bow hunting to the next step of shooting the phone.
Did you notice your bow hunting success rate went up once you started shooting a little bit of competition archery?
Absolutely. My first few years of bow hunting were pretty slim and far between. I mean, shot more squirrels than I did deer, I'll guarantee you.
Everybody talks about the whitetail population getting better. They're like, yeah, we was lucky to see a deer, let alone shoot one with a bow back in the day.
Absolutely.
I know everybody's got their corn feeders and trail cameras now, so it's it's kind of like shopping in the produce aisle. I'm just waiting on that right one at the right time when it's perfect, good conditions and everything else. So I always tell people, I think it was Steve Wingo that said this, and the recruitment slogan for the ASA ought to be, did you miss a deer with your bow last year? Well, come out to the ASA. It won't happen again. Like, you just want to get them shooting under pressure, take their feet away, stretch them out a little bit, give them a 45-yard quarter and target. And I think that the practice translates to the deer woods. I really do. And
it definitely helps.
It might also decrease the amount of equipment malfunctions. Like, everybody gets out there and they're like, oh no, my sight's loose, or oh no, I forgot my release, or, oh no, I left my broadheads in the pickup. Like, it just, and I know we're not shooting tournaments with broadheads, is not what I'm saying, but I think when it just puts you in a mind of got to prepare, got to get ready, got to shoot my bow, got to keep it dialed in all the time, I think you're just more ready and more prepared come October 1.
I think it definitely helps a lot.
See, y'all are getting ready to go up north of the border pretty soon, aren't you?
Yeah, we're headed up to Saskatchewan for a bear hunt right at the end of archery 3D season. So looking forward to that for sure. Never been up there, never tried it before, but Scott and I are going to have a great experience, I think, up there. Maybe, hopefully we don't get eaten before we can shoot one.
I hope we can carry a gun, but hey, I'm kind of scared to want to climb the tree and sit up in the stand with us.
I'm pretty sure Canada doesn't let you carry a pistol. I haven't checked the regulations and laws in a while, but I'm pretty sure they're anti-pistol up there. Don't quote me on that. It's been a minute since I went, but they gave us a can of bear mace and they told us to just shoo him away. Just tell him shoo.
Well, we got a good attorney.
Scott, how'd you get started shooting competition archery?
That is really weird. Like most people do, I started out with archery. I was introduced to competition archery by Richard Morgan. Started out, I wanted to get better. If I did get presented at a shot at a deer, ended up missing because I didn't know how to anchor my bow and look through my peep and do it all at the same time. And he introduced me to competition archery, and it grew from there. It was a passion that was just kindled so high inside that once you started, you couldn't put it down. I had to shoot every day. I had to make a tournament every weekend. And I started in the late 80s, chasing this dream that we have. And at that time, we could shoot pretty much every weekend at different places in Oklahoma. It seemed like every town and every county had a range, and there were so many clubs. We were members of so many clubs because we could travel and travel and travel and put miles on vehicles and shoot. And it just grew from there. I remember when I first started, ASA wasn't a deal. It was called NABH, the North American Bow Hunters. And they started, and then it changed to Cabela's. And the first real big tournament they had was held at Trosper's in Oklahoma City. And we were going to a few of those, went to Bonner Springs a couple times and San Antonio. And it just grew from there. It grew into a passion to where I had to have archery in my life. Without archery, I felt kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. And at the time, I was a police officer, and kind of hard getting off on all the weekends. But somehow you managed to call in sick or get anal glaucoma. You couldn't see yourself going to work, and we'd head to tournaments, and it just going to different shops, hanging out, learning the sport, being like a little sponge, absorbing all that you could.
I think that's one of the biggest benefits of it. It's like, you think you're just going to go shoot was it 20 targets back then? Was it 25? Was it 30?
Most courses then would run 15, and they would be, or 30, pardon me, 30. It'd be double staked. you'd go 15 around, and then you'd stop and eat lunch at their little clubhouse, and then you'd go back for 15 more. But there were different sets of stakes at every target. So one round you might shoot on one side, the other round you might shoot on the other. But most of the targets when we first started were 30 targets.
There you go. So you feel like you're just going to go out there and shoot your 30 and drive home, and you end up learning, well, somebody's four-fletching arrows, or somebody's running a pin bushing, or somebody's running a clarifier. I mean, you guys have been doing it and seen all the gizmos and the gadgets and all the different technological advances in real time. I mean, what was the one time that stood out where you're like, look at that guy, he's got his stabilizer's 30 inches long? Like what was that moment where it's like, does that work? And he's over there shooting lights out, and you're like, I'm gonna get me one of those. Like, what was that you stands out in your mind?
I remember when we would take PVC pipe and put a bolt in the bottom of it and cap it, and we would paint our PVC pipe to match our bows, and some of us would make tees on them to where we'd have our own stand to stand the bow up where we have limb legs now. We went to a tournament in Bonner Springs, and I was with James Martin and Fred Fielder, and we had that little hunting setup. So we had sight master sights. We really thought we were big, and some of these guys started coming out with binoculars, stabilizers with weights on the end, and I was like, what do we do here? How does all this work? And it eventually, when it all came into play, you're still never satisfied. You're going to tinker. I still to this day find if I want to try something new, well, now I've just changed stabilizers since we came back from Minden, and this is exciting. And now I've changed back from a Hamsky to a blade, and I'm kind of questioning that decision. I think Kent and I talked about that this week, what different ways to time your rest and different ways to play with the Hamskys. And as soon as I with this and finish setting up a bow for another gentleman out in the shop today, we're going to play with a Hamsky again and see what we can do.
I've been timing mine by using my drawboard, which the good side is you don't have to pull the cord quite so tight because it's slack. The downside is you are reaching through or around your bow at full draw. So you really got to trust that last chance drawboard just a little bit there. But how many inches of correction are you running on your Hamsky, or how many are you looking for?
Well, what Kent and I talked about this week, and it was a deal really started by Chad Shoemaker in the parking lot at Paris. We were watching him time his and kind of scratching our heads saying, Kent came up with a video that he had seen on Michael Braden talking about marking your arrow, letting it down, see where it started falling, and then go about 2.5 inches in that. So that's about what I'm playing with now. I actually want my arrow to stay on my rest about the first 6, maybe 7 inches of travel, and we'll see how it goes from there.
I'm using 24 D-loop material to run my down cord, and it does stretch a little bit. So I'll set it at 6 and hope it ends up at about 6.5 inches, anywhere between 6 and 7 is what I've heard. Now, Hamsky has a different equation on how to find the power stroke of your bow, and they give you a target and a hunting bow model. And I think that's a little bit more correction. But if anybody out there knows Michael Braden, he's tried and tested and tuned and tinkered. And what he's convinced Dan Gaston of is that 6 inches is the magic number. So that's about what I run mine at. Let it loose, draw the arrow back, put your silver Sharpie mark there, tape measure back 6 inches, put you another dot. And only downside is I always lose that arrow, and I shoot it a couple times, and I got to go back and recheck my marks because the target foam it'll wipe off my Sharpie eventually after I've shot that arrow a few times. So that's the only downside to that system. But I have found that it's easier to do it at full draw if you don't mind reaching through those cables, or if you can pull your press away from the wall and get around the backside of it, take it loose, pull it, see when it comes down, take it back up. I was doing it on the phone the other day talking to somebody, and they're like, "Did you get it right? I heard you let that draw board up and back about 7 different times." I said, "Oh, it takes, 10 or 12 go rounds to get it just perfect."
Yeah, I think I've got mine right now. I checked it yesterday, and mine's right at 7 inches that it's up when it starts falling. So it's within what I think works well for me, and the bow seems forgiving, and so I kind of run it there.
I would assume that it has a little bit of feedback as to what kind of shot you break, like your follow through, but I don't think for a measly 6 inches of correction, as fast as a modern bow is, I don't think I can do anything weird on my follow through to mess it up. So if it's there when it breaks, it's probably going to be there when it lands, unless, wind or if you misset your sight, it's probably not going to be there too. Had that one happen a couple of times. So, or if your sight falls apart, like some people over here.
Hey, if you make Sharpie marks and pay attention to where your marks are, at least you can put it back in the field when it does come loose. But it won't now. Amazing. Lowe's has a bunch of little washers called lock washers.
Mhm.
And you go and you get those and you get the right ones and you lock that thing down. Maybe it won't move after this weekend.
So he's talking about his third axis on his sight had basically loosened up over, because bow's got a lot of moving parts on it, a lot of vibration. Modern bows being as powerful as they are, there's a lot of shock waves going through there. I've told people before, get you some blue Loctite. If you're really paranoid, get you some red Loctite. But when you got those lock washers, did you have enough thread on the original bolts, or did you have to get a longer thread to accommodate them?
I did have enough thread on it. It actually didn't allow them to bottom out. The sight company that I shoot, which is CBE, we spent a amount of time on the phone Monday, and they strongly advised against Loctite, which I understand why, but the lock washers seem to hold. We're going to burn a bunch of bullets through it this week and find out if they're going to hold. But it was definitely a interesting deal Friday night before the banquet, with all of us in the back trying to level second axis and third axis and get everything back in line.
We just needed to distract you so we could get your family member down there.
Oh, so you loosen the sights, basically what you're telling me?
I'm not saying I gave you a reason to be distracted, but I pulled it off.
Oh, y'all did pull that off. Hats off to you and Sean Guthrie, because here I am trying to make sure Kent's there, and my job was to make sure Kent was there. And Rick Gilly and I were all week trying to figure out, man, we got to get Kent there. We got to have him at the meal. We got to have him at the banquet. And I think Rick kidnapped him and said, "Hey, you're going with me, and this is the way it's going to be, and there's no other choice." And yeah, y'all really surprised us. It was a well kept secret. Usually things kind of venture out, but here it is. I find out later that some guy named Neil is disguised in my wife's phone as her friend Leslie, and
Lacey is what it
Lacey,
was.
yeah, Lacey, and they're texting. They've been apparently texting back and forth because I told Kent we were going to go eat catfish instead of going to the banquet, because somebody was saying they weren't going to go to the banquet, and so okay, we'll go eat catfish. But hey, it happens, and y'all pulled it between you and Kent and Rick Archer and Rick Gilly and Sean Guthrie. Yeah, y'all pulled it off, especially sending Sean out in the hall to sneak my wife in.
Yeah. We told Kent that you were getting inducted, and we told you Kent was getting inducted. So it was a big giant who done it between the two of you. And not that I like to lie and be deceitful, but that is my favorite part of it for sure, 100%. It's such a good banquet, because you get to hear not only people from Oklahoma, but you get Arkansas, you get New Mexico, you get Texas, and you get these living legends of the sport. I know Texas had a posthumous induction this year, but 90% of the time the people are there, and you get to see the look and the realization on their face, and it's just and the barbecue is fantastic. So Hats off to Brad and Tara down at the Western region and all the Lamar County Parish Chamber of Commerce people that let us use that building for the induction. It's a good event. I think they had 290 something shooters again this year. So it's a big, I mean, compared to a regular qualifier weekend, it's a pretty big step up in competition. So how y'all had probably what, 15, 20 people in your class?
Somewhere in that area. It's kind of a growing class. The senior known 45, I think we shot in that, Kent, 3 years ago, and I can say we've graduated up.
Gotten older.
Yeah, that's it. That's the word. But it's kind of like that. That and the known 45 were the largest two divisions. And now here lately, I've really noticed that the super senior known, which we shoot in, is really starting to grow. And I don't think it's who is the best shot, but it's who makes the fewest mistakes in a day that comes out on top. And we have a ball. Kent and Rick and I have had just a total ball over the last 3 years chasing each other and just having a good time.
I will say it's one of the more competitive divisions. Like we had a few classes last year that our shooter of the year was at state all but over. You know, it wasn't close. And I think y'all's the last 2 or 3 years has come down to either the last target or the last arrow. So that's one of them that you see. And it might be that you're retired and you can make a lot more of the shoots. You have that freedom, you have that free time to go compete. But it is definitely one of the more competitive divisions that you like to see. You kind of like to watch the numbers come in.
Yeah, we're always within, usually by the end of the year when we go to the state tournament, we're all within usually a few points of each other. Right now our good friend Rick Archer's kind of got a few points on us, but we still got a little time to catch up. Do want to give a shout out to Rick. Of course, if you don't know, he had a heart attack. And so he's probably kind of out for the rest of the season, and we absolutely miss him. And he's a wonderful archer, a wonderful friend. And, he's one of those people that can give you advice and you can just kind of take it to the bank if that's the way it is. And I know we sure do miss him out there.
It's kind of like we have to call him every day and say, hey, are you going to be able to make it this weekend? But his wife just has total fits when we mention sneaking him out of the house or trying to get him out right now.
He'd be hard to kidnap. He's out there like south of Woodward, right?
Yeah, all in a day's drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to worry about shooting 20 targets, keeping your bow together, keeping your equipment together, you also have to fear kidnapping possibilities at the Oklahoma ASA from all your dear friends that are going to throw a bag over your head and throw you in the back of the truck.
We'll get him there.
He won't be down long. We send all our well wishes and speedy recovery to Rick. Rick's a fantastic guy to share a range with. If you ever get the chance to shoot with him, you will 100% get an education on what's going on with your bow, your shot process, and maybe even your mental game just a little bit. So he's a true competitor, and we hope we see him back out there real soon.
I think if it had just been a matter of him getting a few stints, we'd be seeing him back. But with them having to literally open him up, I really think he'll be back next year, come back stronger than ever. So we shall see.
Well, at full draw, you need blood going to the muscles. You need blood going to the eyes. So I think he's going to be back better next year is the problem for you two specifically. Me, I don't have to shoot against him, so it doesn't make one difference one way or the other if he's 2 up or 22 up. But you guys are going to have to be the ones that are, now you're chasing him with increased blood flow, and he's going to see a little better. He's going to hold a little better because you never know. And that just kind of goes out there to everybody. Take care of yourself. Go to your cardiologist. Get on if it's cholesterol meds, if it's blood thinners, just stay on top of your health because we don't want to sit here and talk about how much we miss you. We want to see you. We don't want we don't want to be missing you every weekend. So everybody out there, do everything you can. I know, Scott, you've had what, 2 heart procedures, 3?
2 now.
2 now?
And there won't be a third. I finally took the doctor serious with the second one. I had a 97% blockage in the Widowmaker, and since then I've come from about 260 down to the mid 170s, and getting a little more exercise and a lot less weight and no sugar.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps.
So what's been the evolution of the ASA since you started? I know back when it was the North American Bow Hunters, I'm assuming there weren't uppers and lowers. What was it like when they first, because before there was uppers, there was lowers. So what was it like when they first decided to move the 12 ring down to the corner of the, or not the corner, the edge of the 10 line?
Wow. It was like, you used to dream of trying to be even. That was your goal. Hey, if I can come out even, I'm going to be. No, you can't come out even now. You're going to have to be anywhere from 18 to 28 up at a 2-day event like the ASA is hosting. And if you're in that, you'll be in the top 10. It's definitely added stuff. And Kent and I are now playing a game, and I think Kent can pretty much testify this. That bottom 12 sure looks pretty, and you get used to shooting it for all the years that we've shot it. You always want to drop down there and go for it. We're finding that we can aim dead center. We can find the center of that 10, and starting in about, I want to say what, Kent, the last 3 or 4 shoots we've had, he and I have decided to play the upper game. And what we're doing basically is running at the center and adding a half to 3/4 of a yard, depending on how far we're at, and letting her rip and see where it comes out. And it's a totally different game. And then you came along a couple weeks ago and threw some 14s in there at a shoot, and it's different. It's always a process where we're learning. And there's times when I'm thinking we're going for an upper and I see my arrow going up high and I'm hollering, hey, get down, get down. But it manages to find its way at a big, how can I say, 270 feet per second, Kent. We're not fast at all.
That's about what I'm running on mine. I'm 276, 277, somewhere in there. So I barely got the last sight tape on my new sight to fit. It comes with 1 through 12, and I'm on 12, and I'm just a tiny bit. So I dialed it at 45, and I'm gonna be just a touch tall at 20. So 21 yards, I'm aiming right at it and catching the top, and 45, we'll probably still aim right at it, and well, wherever it goes, it's gonna go. But need a little more speed out of the bow. I might have to cut an arrow down just a little bit. Lose a couple grains here or there. Might have to put a twist in the cable.
Isn't that 35 a little faster than that 37?
35 is much faster than the 37. 35 so fast I'd have to turn it down to be under 288, and that's with running a 300 spine instead of a 350 spine on a 23 with anywhere from 150 to 160 in the nose. My 37 is shooting 140s in the nose, and about that far in front of the rest. So definitely, if I'm going to run the 35, I need to think about dropping all the way down to a 300 spine to be able to run the tip weight. Because if I ran 150, 160 and a 350 spine at that poundage, it would just be a little bit underspined. And I've tried chasing an underspined arrow on a tune a couple of times, and it's much easier to find a good tune on a stiff arrow than it is a weak arrow. And I know there's a lot of people back in the day that would, all the aluminums and everything else. It's like, man, you can really dial it in. But carbon arrows, modern, Black Eagle and Easton, I think, are the only one. No, I think Victory has a couple of selections, but most carbon arrows come in a single spine. And it's like, you get what you get. You're shooting a piece of rebar down there that's a 150 spine, and you're only running 100 grains in the nose of it. It's like, dude, you're not going to take anything out of that at between 60 and 70 pounds or 50 and 60 pounds. You're not going to break it down very far. So as long as your tune's on and your tune's good, it will shoot a stiff arrow, but you're going to have a lot of problems trying to tune a weak one. It's just not going to do what you want or what you think.
Stiffer is definitely always better than underspined when you're tuning, or that's what I ran into.
So how do you guys go about setting up your bow? And while we're on it, run us through your setups, because I know Dave's not with us this morning, but he gets on to me if I don't ask. Tell us what you're shooting.
I'm shooting an Elite Exalt 35. Shooting at, I think I'm at 57 pounds right now. Easton Super Drive 23s with 140 grain point up front, Fusion X vanes in the back. I've got Easton stabilizers on it, 30 on the front with 6, and then a 15-inch bar sticking out the back, and I think I've got 10 on that right now at this time. So seems to be working for me right now. It's the last couple of tournaments. The only time it didn't hit where I want is when I didn't shoot it like I wanted. So I can't blame it on the bow. But it took me a little while to get this one tuned in and figured out. But I think I'm headed down the right street with it now.
What about you, Scott? What are you shooting? And don't cheat off your neighbor's homework.
My neighbor doesn't go to school. Anyhow, my weapon of choice happens to be the Elite Verdict. I like the 37-inch bow. I like the brace height. I want to say they're 37 3/4 and just under 7-inch brace height. I'm still kind of from the old school, longer the better. I'm running Shrewd index stabilizers, running a 28 in front with 2 14s in the back. Currently, and this is a thing I'm playing with, I'm running them low, but I'm thinking about running the 2 V bars up off the top above the grip. Right now I'm running 28 in the front with 8 ounces and 2 14s in the back with 11 on each side, so 22 ounces on the back. Running the Ultra Airs 25s with 120s in the front. I need to put a little more weight in the nose of those. Glance outs with a 120 will put you out of where you want to be. I'm running Flex Fletch Pro 2.5s vanes with biter pin knocks. Running a 3 Fletch. Specialty Archery, Peep, Shrewd sight, the Optum 40 millimeter sight.
I just switched from the 35 to the 40, and it lets a lot more light in there. I didn't realize it'd been so long since I've shot. I think I've shot a 35 for the past 2 or 3 years, and I got a used one, and man, it is a lot brighter. And I've got it pushed all the way out to the last notch on the second 37 that I'm setting up. And it is, I mean, I don't even need my yellow high vis filter on some of these dark ones. I ran it down in Paris because it was overcast both those days. And man, it was with the second to the smallest Hamsky aperture and a 35, I was having some pretty dark looking targets in some of those holes when you're in the trees, you got some shade, and then you got a bunch of cloud cover. So it's double darkness. So what I did when I got down there is I put my high vis lens on from Doc's Clear Targets, Clear Targets, Doc with the trailer, super nice guy. Go see him.
Clear Vision.
He's a retired optometrist. So, his lenses are all going to be perfectly optically centered. A lot of people don't know that their scope is actually not optically centered. They're just running it. And if you ever take it off and put it back on, your point of impact changes. That's usually a good indication. But he's got a yellow lens that fits over the back of your scope, and it'll kind of brighten it up. But I still had to make my peep sight just a little bit bigger. And what I noticed after that is when it got bigger, I was having to actually work on centering up in my scope. With the smallest one that I was running, you just look through it, and that's the only thing you can see is your scope. When it got a little bigger, to try to brighten some of this darkness up that I was trying to shoot in, because if you've ever shot a target, 7:30, 8 a.m. in the morning in a dark hole, you're not sure if you're squeezing it off into a foam or into the tree 10 yards behind the foam. Like sometimes you really can't see, you really don't know. So to try to eliminate having to be in that bad situation, I went to a 40 millimeter scope instead of a 35, and boy, it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty neat the last couple of days, and it's been sunshiny, so that maybe that's part of it. I'm hoping that we'll get to test a little bit of it this weekend. I posted so for everybody out there, we'll be at Bartlesville Archery Club Saturday and Sunday, and it looks like we might have a little bit of overcast, might have a cloud in the sky, might be a rain cloud floating around. Don't let that keep you home, but I'm going to use that as an opportunity to see just how bright this new scope setup is going to be. So it's a qualifier. If you're like me, you're not really competing for shooter of the year. I want to shoot a good score. I want to know the bow's dialed in. But when you have 23 of them on the schedule, you can treat it like just it's dress rehearsal. It's just to see what the bow's going to do. Does it hold under pressure? Can I execute it? Can I see with it? Does it hit behind the pin? So, don't let that keep you home if you're not dialed in. Come shoot your bow. And this is a Rick Gilly thing. And if y'all haven't met Rick Gilly, he's one of the true legends of the sport. He's been on the podcast 2 or 3 times now. He doesn't just set his bow up to shoot in the backyard. He wants to go to the biggest tournament he can go to see how the bow shoots under pressure. When you're nerved up, when you're not breaking good shots, is it forgiving? Is it going to hit? How's it, how does being on the big stage translate to that bow performing? So use a qualifier for that. I mean, if you come out and your bow's not ready, call breakdown in the middle of it, go tinker on it at the truck, go back to the practice bags, and then finish the other half of your targets. It's not a life or death situation. I've heard more people say, no, the bow's just not ready. I can't come out to the qualifier this weekend. I'm like, well, come figure it out with us. I mean, we had Scott, they had, the little bow press and everything behind the registration trailer there at Paris. And we had not one, but I think 2 kids have their string come off the rail, had 3 or 4 people jump in, put the bow back together, get it pressed, get the string on. Little girl went to the practice bag and ended up winning the whole am. So, and her string came off the rails not once, but twice that morning. Before the 8 a.m. round, made it to her target and won her division after that. So shout out to both Mason and Mackenzie Loudon. And everybody that won this past weekend in Paris. Shout out to all the Okies that represented. I'm proud of each and every one of you. Big turnout from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. God, I think we had somebody come in from like South Carolina or something for that. Drove all the way to Paris, Texas to shoot 40 targets and drove home. So it really was a good weekend.
It was
I really
think
Rick gave Kent some advice this week too on constant tinker. Am I right, Kent?
Yeah.
What did Rick Archer tell you?
Well, it's actually Rick Gilly, and he told me occasionally you need to leave your bow alone and build a little confidence in it if it's shooting good. And because every time I go to a tournament, I've rode to several tournaments with Rick Gilly, and I always tell him what I'm going to go home and change. And he said, if you're shooting it pretty good, you ought to just leave it alone for a while and build a little confidence in what you have. Now, I did at Paris. I did exactly what Neil had done. I had switched to a 40 millimeter scope because I'd been shooting a lot of the local shoots. I had a little 32 millimeter on there, and a lot of the dark targets when you're standing out in the sun, I just couldn't make out and couldn't see enough of the body profile. And so I ended up switching to the 40, and I think it's really going to help me out this year.
I'm hoping it's the ticket, and I've got that scope now pushed all the way out to try to get a little bit of extra magnification on it, and man, I can see again. I don't know if it's I forget that I can play with that. You just kind of set the scope, set the sight, and once you get your tape on it, you're like, okay, that's all I can do. It's like, well, you gotta kind of break out the Dan Gaston mindset of I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it if it works, and then I'm gonna try something next to see if it's better, and if not, I'll go back to it. So
Yeah.
there's a some of it is undiagnosed mental illness because it's just we're never satisfied. We're never going to be good enough's never good enough, but we're always searching for that next thing that's going to be able to give us an advantage. And the cool thing about archery is they're the first ones to say, hey, try this. Like you look through my bow and tell me if you can see, and I'll tell you what scope I'm running, and you can go try it. Like everybody now is doing the doublets, and I think they're pretty pricey, man. I haven't spent the money on them yet, but if it can help you see better, and if you're fighting your vision, like we were working with Brian McSorley the other day at H&H, and he's shooting either a 5 or a 6 power. He's got both with his scope all the way out as far away as he can get it, and he's got a big long wingspan. So his 6 power is probably closer to a 7, like Bosca. Like Bosca's running a 7, and it's probably a 9 power at 33-inch draw. And he didn't have a clarifier in there, and he used to use an A+, and that wasn't it. We tried, I think, C and then D and then A, and A is what ended up being good. And we tried 3 different aperture sizes in there. So we spent most of the day screwing and unscrewing on peep sights and apertures just to see what would clear his target up at 20 yards. Because he told us, he was like, I'm just shooting center mass on him. I haven't been able to. The only thing he can see is the plug line. And I was like, man, you got to be able to see them rings to let yourself know if you can execute with your pin holding in it. Like that is the true test to get your vision figured out, and then see if you can execute. Because if you're just saying, all right, behind the shoulder, bam, there it goes. That's how we all deer hunt, but we're not living in the deer hunting woods. We're living in the competition archery woods. So there's definitely levels to it.
Well, there is, and I know, speaking for me in the super senior known, one of the things that we kind of lose is our eyesight. I mean, I don't see near as good as I used to. And I have trouble when I get to the higher power scopes. I get the real blurry pin. If I get the target clear, I can get a clear pin and the target's really blurry. So, I kind of go where everything's just got a little bit of a, not perfection to it, and I can see my pin pretty well, and I can see the target pretty decent. But it would definitely be nice to be able to see those 12 rings again and all at some of the shoots.
What size pin are y'all running?
I run a 19 thousandths pin with a 4-power lens in my 3D setup. I have run clarifiers before. Right now, though, I took it out for Paris because I thought it was going to rain. And I always hate fighting the rain with them in the peep. So I took it out for that shoot.
Did that change your point of impact at all?
On my bow, it doesn't. Of course, we're 40-yard max. I really can't tell that it changed anything.
Okay. What about you, Scott?
I'm running the big 5-power doublet in the 40 millimeter. But when I have problems, what I have learned, pop that sunshade off. Don't be afraid to take your front sunshade off. And on our shrewd scopes, we can take that thing off and it still have our lens in and not have any effect. But I spent a great deal time talking to Haskell at the Triple Crown shoot that he had. And we were talking about clarifiers. And of course, I'll either shoot with my glasses on or my contacts in. And he told me, if you're running your contact with a clarifier in there, you're basically correcting your vision twice. So what I tried here at Paris is I pulled my 1/2 power clarifier out that I usually shoot with my contacts, and I put a 1.5 in without contacts, And it was amazing the difference. There was no double vision. There was no blurry pin. There's no nothing. So I'm going to try that again this week at Bartlesville, running no contacts with the 1.5 and a 5-power doublet. And it seems to have proved a bunch. And if I need more light in, I'll take the sunshade off and we'll try it that way and see what goes on.
Man, gotta play against the rain. I've never I usually, when it's going to rain, I'll usually carry little Q-tips and a can of compressed air if I need to blow something out. But I haven't, those sunshades being as long as they are, I mean, your scope's that long. So it would have to be literally raining sideways to get to the lens. Now, the peep sight's a different thing. But what you need is you just need you a scope house cover, just like regular old Shrewd with one of these. I don't know if you can see that in there. It slides right on your string there. Keep the rain off of it. Slide that around there. I always put it on because your peep's sitting like this. I always cover it up with the side without a slit on it because you'd hate to put this on, have a raindrop go through that crease in there and land right in the middle of your clarifier. But I'm gonna put this put my truck keys for this weekend inside my scope cover so I don't forget it. And then I went and did just like Kent's telling me and got me it's an MDR ring. So when you want to pop your sunshades off, you still have the little sticker on there to line you
up.
Yeah, you can still run it because I run a reducer ring down so I can tell if I'm pulling myself out of my peep sight, but that's low profile. That's not going to stop any light from getting in, but I popped it off over there on the practice range and was like, oh, I got, I think, a little bit more light that I can see, but I can't line up and tell if I'm ducking my head one way or another, up or down. So there's definitely gear out there that you might not know about. Like I've shot a Shrewd for 4 years now. I think the Shrewd Optim's the best scope out there on the market. It's got every modular piece. It's got, you can run this thing any different way. You can set it up any way for how your eyes are or your situation. I didn't know what these were for. I'd seen somebody running them. I'm like, oh, they got a little stubby sunshade. Well, it's not a sunshade. It's just the ring from one, and it'll let a lot more light in. So hopefully you're not squinting at I shot an 8 that was that far left, 8 inches to the left on it was either a boar or a Russian. It was either the pig or the Russian boar. I don't remember which one, but it was not the one that's vitals sit far back. It was the one that's vitals sit far forward. I think that's the Russian. And I had the perfect height on it, and that thing was an 8 by 8 inches. I'm lucky it caught an 8. And I was like, that's the right height. And they're like, oh, you're not going to like that one. Because I was looking at the plug line and shooting it there. And it happens on the pig, and it also happens on the bighorn sheep because he's got this big, deep body, and you just can't see you put your scope up there, and you're like, I got nothing but body. There's his leg, there's his back, somewhere in here, boom. And I've shot that thing wrong twice in Minden, and a couple more times since then. It's not been pretty.
That MDR ring is a lifesaver. It'll help you center up every time.
Do you take it and just leave it in your quiver in case you need it, or do you just put it on because if it's going to rain, I use the sunshades to keep the rain off my lens.
My MDR stays on mine. I never take the MDR ring off either of my Shrewd scopes, but the sunshade is always an option. It unscrews. It takes about a second to unscrew it and about a second to put it back on. So it's not a bad thing.
And it doesn't require that you unscrew your lens either. So a lot of people will take their lens off and put it back on, and it'll change their point of impact depending on where that thread started. And that can be a problem if you're not running one that's perfectly optically centered because you didn't get it screwed back on just the perfect way. I've had that one. I took it off to clean it one time and put it back on, and I was needing to go to the practice bag. So really, and I hate to say this, if you take your lens off, go ahead and call breakdown real quick and run over to the practice range and shoot you a couple arrows and make sure it's good, because you don't know that you hit those threads the right way or you tightened it down the exact same amount. And if you're looking through this part of the scope instead of this part of the scope, you might not like where that arrow lands.
A little bit goes a long ways.
Well, a little knowledge. People don't realize what the breakdown rule's for. And having said that, I do think some people misuse it. Like we had a kid shooting absolute lights out in Minden in our group. And his second day, he just didn't get any warm-up shots, and he shot a bunch of 8s, and he's like, I'm going to call breakdown. And he went over there, and he took a couple ounces off the front bar, and he took a couple ounces off the back bar, and he came back 40 minutes later, and 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, all the way to the end of the round. And I was like, you never know if it's a discretion call. Like there's nobody checks, nobody verifies that like something's hanging off your bow. You know, it could be a mental breakdown for all I know. And they'll go over there and they'll use every bit of that 45 minutes to dial in, get their head right, get their muscles warmed up, get their bow shooting where it needs. And they'll come back and finish the round. And then all the guys in your group got to go walk with you the last 5 targets that you missed. And it's like, man, I don't know about that. I think you ought to have to shoot with the group. If you're shooting first, second, third, fourth, fifth in that group, I think you should continue having to shoot that way. But some people would view it as a disadvantage to have to not have an arrow to aim at every single time. Like me, I like it. I think them arrows get in the way and it catches my eye and I'll drag it all the way over to the opposite side of where I need to be. So I like shooting a blank target. But everybody else out there, they kind of like an arrow to aim off of as a reference point. Like, okay, he's a low 8. I need to be 3 inches above him. Okay, got a reference point. Boom. So 6 one way, half a dozen another.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. There's some targets, especially, that I really like shooting first. And then there's some I like shooting with an arrow in it to kind of give me a little reference. And then it all depends on the group that you have, where their arrows are at, you know, how useful they are. I know I've lost a lot of points in the past. You know, guy will have one in that lower 12 in the bottom part of it. And, you know, I think I need to be just above him and I'll end up being just below him and I'll shoot the 8, you know. So sometimes they can be good and sometimes they can kind of drag you down there to them too.
So the big thing in 3D is what color vanes, what color bushing, and what color knock you're doing. And for anybody that's ever been in Oklahoma, you know a big old tall guy pours concrete by the name of Greg Geddes. And Greg Geddes' arrows are dark. And he shoots in Super Senior Known with these two guys. And everybody in Super Senior Known, be it Dan Gaston, Kent, Scott, Rick, every one of them has a blacked out arrow that they are carrying, and that is the Greg Geddes arrow. That is I'm shooting in front of Greg, and he ain't giving me nothing to aim at, and I'm not giving him nothing to aim at. So shout out to Greg Geddes for making us buy another pack of knocks, another pack of vanes, and I think Kent, aren't you doing a little bit of powder coating for somebody here?
I am. I ended up. We have down at our Archery Technology Center, we have a place called the McCullough Lab where you can go in and use some of their equipment. And I've actually been going in and sandblasting the knock bushings and then powder coating them black. And so I did me a set and really liked the looks of them. So Scott saw them. So I'm happy to do him a set now. Matter of fact, I did the sandblasting on them yesterday. So hopefully this afternoon or this evening, I'll get the paint on them and they'll be ready for him to go.
I think somebody, instead of running black vanes, has got a new clear vein on theirs for.
I've got the clear veins on mine.
I have the excuse, and this is built in, and you can blame Ryan Thomason for this, who no one would ever accuse of doing anything wrong. Partly because he's the best guy I've ever met. And second of all, because nobody'd say anything to him because he's a big old dude. But he's got me priming them with purple PVC primer, priming my veins before I glue them on. And that purple will stain anything except for the color black. So if anybody asks why the Oklahoma State Director is shooting blacked out arrows, it's just because I have problems getting my veins to stick. And the one thing that's worked as a priming substance for me has been Odie's purple PVC, and I mean, you get it on your hands, you get it on your clothes, it'll ruin anything it touches except those veins. So that's my excuse. Y'all, I guess you're just that kind of person. I don't know.
Well, most of the time I've got white veins with white knocks. So, but like I said, depending on the group, if everybody else in the group is shooting a dark area, and then I'll always keep one in the quiver just in case.
Yeah, that's old Greg Geddes, man. It's a game of strategy, and who you're shooting behind can determine whether or not you have a good day or a bad day. It is 100%. And like me, even if they could see my arrows, it's usually in the neck or the leg, and they don't want to aim at it anyways. So sometimes it's not that big a deal. And there is a guy, his name's Byron. I know he's in the senior 45 class now. I shot with him 2 years ago at Metropolis, and he had a PS26 with a shiny bushing, 2 white veins, 2 yellow veins, a white wrap, and a neon yellow knock. And every time my blue fiber would come close to it, it would take all the light from that 10,000th fiber, and I would have nothing but post. Now, he had a rough day out there because it said his strings had stretched just a little bit, and he wasn't really hitting behind the pin. So he spent a lot of time in the 8 ring and the 5 ring. But if he ever had one anywhere in the 10, it was nothing on my fiber except post and go. So too dark could be a problem. Too light could be a problem. Like, it takes a lot of shooting and experience to figure out what exactly your optic setup likes.
Yeah.
Just run them all black. Just run them all black. Just do it. It's fun. You make more friends that way.
Sometimes I run the all gray with the red biter knocks. So if you're looking hard, you can see it, but the bright knocks for me are a distraction. Kent and I have joked a couple times, we ought to put lighted knocks in here and make a couple and see how it goes. But can't do that.
I don't think they're legal. No,
they're not.
No, I've seen some guys shoot them at the ASA, and it's like, man, you don't want to say anything to the new guy that's a bow hunter, because we want the bow hunters to come out. We want everybody that's going to be in the woods in October to come shoot the foam deer in April. That's my goal as state director. You want to grow the sport. You want to try to include everybody. But one of them, you'll see them blinking, flashing red and green down there in the target. Looks like a Vegas neon. And I'm like, are you shooting a fun round? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, fun round. Good. Next time when you shoot an official round, let's get you some different knocks and make sure we sight in ahead of time. Because I wouldn't want to waste the battery on those expensive ones, and I sure wouldn't want somebody shooting at them, because they're not exactly the cheapest little accessory for your arrow. So, but as far as ASA competition goes, Luminox are not allowed.
Kent and I'll probably be running our hunting bows here in a couple weeks anyhow, just for giggles, to make sure we're ready for late August, early September.
Are you going to run them at the ASA shoot?
Yeah, I think we've discussed that, and yeah, I think you'll see us, especially on some of the closer ones, you might see us going 2 days and shooting our competition round one day and then shooting our hunting bows the next. But it's time we break out our skinnies and our hunting bows a little, just to see make sure everything's on them before we go.
And you're both going to be hunting with the 35, right? The Exalt? Is that what you're hunting with?
Actually, I'm going to be hunting with a Matthews lift that I have from a hunting boat.
Okay, 33, a little shorter axle.
Yeah, a little shorter axle. It's a little faster too. With what I'm shooting, I shoot it a little bit more poundage though. But great shooting little bow. Matter of fact, I actually shot a couple of 3D tournaments with it earlier this year before I got the Exalt 35. So pretty good little bow.
I actually have the Ethos that I'm going to use for hunting with the performance mods on it. But I'm also thinking, we shoot these verdicts an awful lot. 37 isn't too long to be in a tree stand. I might even be up in a tree stand with one of those.
10, 15, 20 years ago, man, they were all 40-inch axle to axles. There wasn't no short bow, long bow, this and that. It was, this is my bow and this is what I shoot arrows with. So that's definitely something that's changed over the past, how many years? 20, 25 years?
Yeah.
Anytime I'm in a blind, I'm going to use a short bow. It's kind of hard to move a longer bow in a blind, but being that we're going to be in stands, I'll have both of them with me. I'll have a verdict with me and the ethos, just however it needs to be.
You're probably going to have a 20 to 25 yard shot from the tree to the bait barrel. So you're not really worried about arrow trajectory. You know, how fast does it shoot? How flat does it shoot? From when the 2 times I've been bear hunting north of the border, it wasn't 18 yards, it's just a little chip shot. And what you got to do is you wait for that bear to reach in there for that donut, and it gets that front shoulder forward, and just don't clip the hair underneath, and that hair hangs down off their belly a little bit. So get it up there in that upper 12, that center 12 area, and run an arrow through him.
Now, we're definitely looking forward to the trip.
You know what outfitter you're going with?
Yeah, we're going with a guy named Nick Creel, Pure Passion Outfitters. He's just north of Saskatoon, about 60 miles.
Flying or driving?
We're going to drive up.
Kent's flying the way he drives. Have you seen him?
No.
He's gone. No stopping.
Is it one of the outfitters that lets you fish in the morning and bear hunt in the evening, or do you just bear hunt?
No, he does some fishing with it, and kind of looking forward to it. Actually, my good friend Rick Allison and another archer that sure miss him as well as Vaughn Rader that used to shoot all the ASA tournaments. They had both went up a few years ago and did a hunt with this guy, and they came back and telling me about it. And so we ended up using him to go to. But yeah, it's a fishing and a bear hunt deal.
There you go. Little combination. They don't wake up early and hunt. You just wake up early, get breakfast, go fish till 1 or 2. And the sits are long because the farther north you get, the longer daylight. It could be 10 o'clock at night and you still have daylight, and it's kind of weird. So I don't know. It's different up in Canada, man. They're on a different lifestyle for sure.
They are. I know that they said he'd take us out in the afternoon. He said we'd be out there for 8 hours on a set. So,
woo, buddy. That's the kind of hours in the stand that means I'm shooting the first thing that even looks like a bear. Just, all right, get on the radio, come bring that. They got the 4-wheelers with the treads that are that tall, and it's just driving through a swamp the whole time. They'll drive 100 yards, get stuck, winch it off a tree, pull yourself out, drive another 100 yards, get stuck again, winch it again, and we just go all the way back into the forest there and wait for some kind of monster to come in looking for a half-rotted beaver carcass in a barrel with a little hole in it like this. We were actually tracking one of them, and he didn't make it to the barrel. And the way they check them is they'll jam a log up in there, and the barrels will come in and pull the log out and go get, they'll go hit the barrel and they'll dig for something, because you don't want them to just grab it and go. You got to leave the hole real small so they sit there and pull it out, and they got to work on it a little bit. So we were out there tracking this bear that I'd hit pretty far forward in the shoulder. Didn't end up finding him. When we came back to the stand, another bear had come in while we were on the ground out there looking, and moved that log out of there and got something out of that barrel to eat. So it's kind of eerie, man. They're not real. You don't hear them come in like you do a deer. The deer comes in breaking leaves, breaking stems. You hear the birds kind of say, something's going on. You hear them before you see them sometimes. Them bears, they'll just appear on you, and they're just like, whoa, there he is. All right, he's looking at it. Like, they can see you, they can smell you up there. They don't see real good. You don't have to sit still. There's not the amount of scent control. Like, our guide was smoking a cigarette in the pickup truck on the way out to drive us. I was like, hey man, what? I got my spray on. I got my ozone. I got all my scent. He goes, they don't care. They don't care. They can smell that rotting beaver carcass and donut grease we poured on them from half a mile away. They don't care if you use Irish Spring soap or smoke Marlboro Lights on the way to the stand. I was like, okay, whatever, man. You're still ashing on my good jacket, though. I do have to deer hunt in this come fall, so my hunting clothes smell like a dive bar every time I go bear hunting. Well, guys, anything we need to mention as far as sponsors you want to thank, or tell these people where they can get a hold of you if they have any questions related to all things archery?
Well, I live in Enid, Oklahoma. I do have a little shed out back that I can do bow tuning in. I do change a few strings for people every year, and usually, cut a few errors. So, if you need something, give me a holler. I'm not really a bow shop, but we don't have really a true bow shop in Enid anymore. The one that was here went out of business, so kind of out of need for a lot of friends and people up here that don't have the equipment. We kind of started doing a little bit here at the house. So, give me a shout on Facebook if you need something done in the Enid area, and I bet we can get you fixed up, or we can get you somewhere that you can.
How about you, Scott?
I'm on in the south part. I'm on the beautiful Lake Eufaula. I have a 40 by 40 shop sitting right outside the back door that I'm sitting here looking at. It's got a complete bow shop in it. We've got your presses, we've got your draw boards, cutoffs, all. I've got every imaginable tool. For 4 years after my retirement for the police department, I worked at Pat's Archery, and then managed HL's archery department in McAllister for 5. So if you need it and it's archery related and you're in this area, 3 miles from where we had the Arrowhead shoot. Takes about a whole 5 minutes to get here from the Arrowhead. About 45 minutes from Connors. But we have a complete shop here at the house. We can do anything you need to do and get it taken care of.
Well, there you go, guys. Well, one more time, congratulations on being inducted into the 2025 class of the ASA Western Region. I appreciate the heck out of everything y'all do. I look forward every weekend to flinging arrows with you. Thank you for sitting down with us. Want to take a second and thank a couple of sponsors for us. Cooper Heat and Air, my good buddy Sly Cooper. It's air conditioner season, so I ain't seen him shooting his bow in a couple weeks, so I assume he's fixing somebody's air conditioner when the weather gets hot. Shout out to Cooper Heat and Air. Fix it before it breaks. Want to thank H&H Archery Department. That's where we've been flinging some indoor arrows here at the city, and it's where I met Dave Bosca. It's where if you're a fan of the podcast, you can thank H&H Archery for that, because that's where I met Dave, and I was like, man, that guy's got 6 veins on his arrow. What in the holy crap is that guy doing? So that's just, you go to the indoor range and you meet people that are going to teach you stuff, and H&H is kind of where we do it. And big shout out to Bryce Talley and Summit Bowstrings. If you're needing a set of competition strings, if you're needing a set of hunting strings, or if you just need a set of replacement strings, give old Bryce Talley at Summit Bowstrings a holler and he'll get you fixed up. That's pretty much all I got. Thank you guys again for telling stories with us, and good luck out there bear hunting.
Well, thank you, Neil. We appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate all you do.
All right.
Thanks.
See ya. I'll talk to you at midnight.
I know you will.